All right, everybody, I'm Logan Alec. I'm a CPA, and today I want to share with y'all something that I do to make extra money. This particular activity only takes about an hour of my time a month, but it makes me over $1,000 month in and month out. So if you want to kind of do the math here, it's kind of $1,000 an hour side hustle. What am I talking about? Well, I'll give you a hint. It has to do with my credit cards. And no, this has nothing to do with credit card rewards and points and cashback and miles or anything like that. Though, of course, I love that stuff. I make videos about that stuff all the time. This is something completely different. What am I talking about? I'm talking about selling trade lines or adding essentially strangers to my credit cards as authorized users every month for extra income to the tune of over $1,400 a month. Here's my actual monthly earnings report from my Tradeline broker for a recent month. I added trade lines on 5 different credit cards. Took me in grand total maybe 10 minutes per card, probably less actually. But let's say I spent an hour doing this, which I didn't. It was actually less than that. But even if I spent an hour doing this, that's like $1,400 for an hour of my time. So pretty lucrative, right? And in this video, I'm going to explain to you how you can get started selling trade lines like me for extra income. So how this works is the trade line buyer, the person I add to my credit card as an authorized user, gets a quick credit boost, right? And you, or me, the trade line seller, makes potentially hundreds of dollars just for a few minutes of time. By the way, I don't have to find these people myself. I have a broker that handles all that stuff for me. All I have to do is add them to my credit cards. And if you're serious about this, right? And if you have credit cards that you've had for at least a couple of years with at least $7,000, let's say, in credit limit, I'd be happy to connect you with my broker. Just email me at tradelines@loganalec.com. I can make that introduction. Also, this is important because this gets asked a lot. The buyer's authorized user credit card gets shipped to you, not to them, meaning that they never have access to your actual credit line. Obviously, this would not be a good idea, right, if you had to give strangers access to your credit card, but they never actually have access to it. All that happens is you add them as an authorized user on this trade line, right, your credit card account, and that account shows up on their credit report and could potentially give them a credit boost. So in this video, I'm going to cover everything you need to know about selling trade lines. I'm going to walk you through my process. I'm going to tell you obviously the benefits, but also the risks. But first, let me tell you how I got started. It was actually my brother-in-law, Mike, who got me into this. I had heard about doing this before. I always thought it was a little shady. It was like too risky, maybe even illegal, but my brother-in-law, he's a stand-up guy. He's in the financial world as well. He told me about this a few years ago. I think it was at like a family Christmas gathering or something like that. I heard him out, and when he showed me how much he was making every month with very little time invested, I was super interested. But of course, as a risk-averse CPA, I was very ambivalent about making money like this, right? It sounded risky, if not flat out illegal, to earn an income by adding people I don't know to my credit cards. But after looking into it, I became more and more comfortable with it. And while there are definitely risks you should be aware of before you sell trade lines, risks that I will tell you about later in this video, it's definitely not illegal. And for most people, the rewards outweigh the risks. An extra $1,400 in my bank account every month doesn't lie. So how much can you make by adding authorized users to your cards? Well, how much you make selling trade lines on a particular credit card depends on a variety of factors, but the two most important are the card's credit limit and the card's age. This is because, like I said, the whole reason why somebody would want to purchase a trade line in the first place, right, that is be added as an authorized user on your credit card, is to improve their own credit. Being added as an authorized user to a card with a high credit limit can decrease a buyer's credit utilization, and being added to an older card can increase their average age of accounts, both of which are factors towards one's credit score. So in general, the older the card and the higher the credit limit, the more valuable your card is from a trade line perspective. So, for example, on this card, I make $240 per month per authorized user I add. But I also have another credit card with a $25,000 credit limit that I opened in 2015. On this card, I make $220 per month per authorized user I add, almost as much per user as I make on the card with the $33,000 credit limit. But the other card has a credit limit over 30% more than this second card, so why is the payout of the second card almost as much as the payout of the first card? The reason is the age. The second card is 2 years older. So my point is there are two major variables here, card age and credit limit. So I can't tell you exactly how much you'll make with your specific cards. That depends on the card as well as how many authorized users you're comfortable adding per card per month. I limit myself to 2 authorized users per month per card. and I'll tell you why later in this video. Like I said, if you're curious exactly how much you could make with your credit cards, email me, tradelines@loganalec.com, and I'll introduce you to my broker who can give you a free quote for your cards. So now I'm going to break down for you exactly how this works. I'm going to give you a step-by-step guide on how to sell trade lines. Step 1, find your trade line buyers or work with a broker like I do. There are 2 ways you can go about finding trade line buyers, people who want to be added as an authorized user to your credit card. First way is to find the buyers yourself. This involves marketing, setting prices, taking payment, managing clients, hiring an attorney to make sure you're protected legally, dealing with a refund, all the things involved in running a service business. While you do keep all the profits this way, you also sacrifice your most valuable resource, which is your time. The other method to find trade line buyers is to go through a broker, like I do. The broker does all the legwork of finding the buyers, gathering their information, and collecting payments, and a broker will give you a piece of the action by giving you a commission for every successful authorized user that posts to the buyer's credit report. Step 2 is to gather your trade line buyer's information. Obviously, your trade line broker will give you all this information about your buyers, but if you're finding buyers yourself, you'll need to gather this information for each of your buyers on your own. Here's a list of information you'll need for each trade line buyer. You'll need their full legal name, including middle initial. You'll need their social security number. You'll need their date of birth. You'll need their home address, and you'll need their maiden name if they have one. Like I said, if you go through a broker, they will handle gathering this information for you. Every month, my broker sends me a spreadsheet containing the information I need to add each card's authorized users for that month. So like I said, if you work with a broker, they make it really easy for you. Step 3, after you've gathered your buyer's information, step 3 is to add your trade line buyers as authorized users on your credit cards by the statement date for that credit card. Again, if you go through a broker, they'll tell you exactly when you need to add the buyers for that card for that month to your card. Here's an example email from my broker. You can see they tell me which card they're talking about. At the end of the email subject line, there's a date, in this case the 12th, meaning that the 12th is my statement date for that card, so I need to add the authorized users for this month to this card by midnight Eastern time on the night of my statement date, the 12th. How do you know your statement date? Well, your statement date is the date on which your credit card statement is generated every month. For example, the statement date for my Citi Double Cash card is the 17th of each month. Here's a screenshot from a recent statement of mine for my Citi Double Cash card. You can see the billing period ends on the 17th. Citi Double Cash, by the way, is a great credit card. I did a full review of that card recently. Link to my reviews at the top of the screen and in the description below. But anyway, once you've gathered the information about your buyers and you know when exactly you're supposed to add them to your card, how do you actually add them as authorized users to your card? Well, it's very easy. You can do it by calling the number on the back of your card. You'll be connected to a representative at the bank, and you'll say, hey, I want to add an authorized user. Some banks make it easy to do online as well. For example, Wells Fargo, Chase, Discover, a few others. The thing to note here is that depending on the bank, even if you can add authorized users both over the phone and online for a given bank, sometimes it's better to use one method or the other. And the reason is the more information you provide the bank about your authorized user, the better chance that your trade line will actually post to your trade line buyer's credit report. Because if it doesn't post their credit report, then you probably won't get paid because they could just think, oh, he didn't actually add me as an authorized user. So, for example, some banks over the phone, they'll ask for the authorized user's social security number, but if you add them online, they don't ask for the social. So in that case, it's probably better to add your authorized user over the phone by calling the number on the back of your credit card so you can give the bank the user's social security number, which will increase the odds of the trade line posting on that buyer's credit report. And if you go through a broker, they'll give you information on the best way to add authorized users depending on your credit card issuer. All right, step 4 is to remove your trade line buyers after 1 to 2 months. Depending on the arrangement, your authorized user will either remain on your card for 1 or 2 months. Obviously, if they want to stay for 2 months rather than 1 month, you'll make more money. And if you go through a broker, they'll give you instructions and they'll let you know for all your trade line buyers how long they should stay on your card. But after this point, whatever it is, you should remove the authorized user from your card to make room for new ones. Just like adding authorized users, removing authorized users is generally very easy to do both over the phone and online. Finally, the last step is to get paid. Now, if you went out and found buyers on your own, they may have already paid you up front depending on how you want to run your business. But if you go through a broker like I do, then you'll have to wait for the broker to pay you. And keep in mind that buyers will only pay the broker and the broker will only pay you if the end buyer is satisfied with the service. That is, if the trade line actually posts, that is, it actually appears on the Tradeline buyer's credit report. Now, if you add your authorized users promptly before the statement date, using the best recommended method for that particular bank, phone, or online, whatever, chances are great that the trade line will post. Just looking at my earnings report that I showed you previously, you can see that I added 2 trade lines for each card this month, and for most of my cards, both trade lines posted. There was one card where for whatever reason only one trade line posted. So it's not like it's a 50-50 chance, right? In my case here, 90% of the authorized users I added to my cards, right, the trade line actually posted to their credit report. Okay, so that's pretty good odds. I get the money direct deposited from my broker the next month. So, for example, I get paid in August for authorized users I add to my cards in July. So it's pretty prompt. Now, I've talked about selling trade lines because I do it myself and I make money from it and I believe in it. I think it's wonderful, but it's not without its downside. So now I do want to talk about the risks of selling trade lines. Biggest risk of selling trade lines is that the bank will shut down your credit card because they don't want you adding too many authorized users, or because they believe that this practice violates their terms of service. So this has actually happened to me before. A bank did shut down one of my credit cards, and I believe the reason why they did that is that in this particular instance, I got greedy and I added too many authorized users to that particular card. I was adding like 3 or 4 a month, which in retrospect was just a dumb, greedy idea. Okay, this amount of volume seems to have raised a red flag at the bank, and the bank canceled my card. Nowadays, I only add up to 2 authorized users per card per month. I haven't had any trouble since I implemented that policy personally. Not to say I won't have trouble in the future, there's no guarantees with this, but if you start selling trade lines, I recommend that you stick to no more than 2 authorized users per card per month. Like I said, if you want to be connected to my trade lines broker, shoot me an email, tradelines@loganalec.com. I will personally make an introduction. Now at this point, I just want to go over some frequently asked questions about selling trade lines. Question number 1, can I use the credit cards that I'm using to make money selling trade lines? Can I actually make purchases with them? The answer is yes, you should definitely use them. In fact, it's kind of suspicious to banks for you to add authorized users to cards and not use the cards, right? So I definitely use all the cards that I use to sell trade lines. The one caveat here is you don't want to exceed 15% utilization on your card, meaning that if you have a credit card, say with a $10,000 credit limit, you don't want to have a balance of any more than $1,500 on that card at any time. Question number 2, speaking credit limits. Do I need to have a certain credit limit on my cards to be eligible to use them to sell trade lines? The answer to this question is yes. Generally say at least $7,000, $8,000 in credit limit. Otherwise, it's probably not going to be worth it to an end buyer or broker, right? Obviously, the higher the limit, the better, but at a minimum, let's say $7 or $8 grand. Also, before you get a quote, if you want to use the broker I use, before you get a quote with them, one thing you might want to do is see if your credit card company, your bank, will increase your credit limit. That's typically very easy to do these days. You can call them up, or in some cases, even just request a limit increase online. I might make a video on that in the future, but that's something to think about. Question number 3, is the money you make by selling trade lines taxable? And as a CPA, I must be the bearer of bad news here and let you know that yes, the income you earn from selling trade lines is in fact taxable. If you sell trade lines through a broker, they'll send you a 1099 after the end of the year reporting the payments that you received. But even if you don't receive a 1099, you should still report this income on your tax return because it is taxable income. The question, of course, becomes whether you should report this income as miscellaneous income on your tax return or on Schedule C as self-employment income, which would subject you to the self-employment tax. You'd want to reach out to a qualified tax professional about your particular situation, but in general, if you're just selling a couple trade lines a month through a broker, and this is not tax advice, by the way, I don't know your specific situation, but in general, I'd say if you're just selling a couple trade lines, a few trade lines a month through a broker, you're probably okay reporting your trade lines income as miscellaneous income. However, if you are more engaged and involved in your trade line selling, right, where it's a trader business, you're actively seeking clients, you're more involved in the transaction, maybe there's a volume element here, then it's possible you should report your selling trade lines income as self-employment income. That's all I'm going to say about the tax aspect here. If you want actual tax advice on your individual tax situation, please reach out to a qualified tax professional. Next question, can the authorized users on my cards use my cards to make purchases? I kind of mentioned this earlier, but the answer to that question is no, absolutely not, because you will have their cards shipped to your address, not their address, so they never actually have access to the cards. All right, folks, that just about covers it. Like I said, if you want to be introduced to my Tradelines broker, this is the one I use every month. shoot me an email, tradelines@loganalec.com. I will hook you up. I look forward to your emails, everybody. Bye-bye.